you for being here. It's an open house, little variety show. Have a number of different presentations. We got 2 more. This is Sascha Kalivoda. As she described it. How to stop chasing those downstream problems, right? Getting to the root, getting to the cause. And we got about 45 minutes. And then our final presentation will be a man who holds the world record for ice baths, 4 hours and 5 minutes. Can you believe it?
I watched that video today because I saw that thing and like pick the ice off of them. And
jeez, amazing. So that'll be at 4 o'clock. But
you could sleep
yeah,
in here.
Yeah. All right. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Sascha and enjoy. Thanks for being here.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining me today. I know some of you I do not. My name is Sascha. I've worked with a great brand that's in the store for a long time called New Earth Organics and the sister brand Vital Essence. So I've been around this place for a long time and around this world for a long time. I also have a podcast called the Sovereign Collective Podcast. If you're interested in learning really great stuff, because I have to say it's pretty good and I have some good stuff on there. So you want to check that out, please do. And today I'm going to be talking about it's not an exhaustive list, but it's 3 basic fundamentals, because I find that people are often chasing downstream problems. It's like, oh, my estrogen's low, I better supplement with estrogen, or oh, my bone density is low, I'm going to go straight to the calcium, or oh, you know, I can't, I'm not fertile, I'm going straight for fertility treatments. It's like, whoa, let's back the bus up, because there are reasons why we aren't able to do certain basic functions. And excuse me, I'm bleeding. Holy Malcolm will get me a Band-Aid. But anyway, so yes. Oh, not yet. But anyway, so there are really basic things, and the thing is, this body doesn't make mistakes. It knows what it's doing, and what I'm encouraging people is to get to the basics, so that when you do that, all of a sudden, so many of your problems will go away, or then you can go to the next stage. But if we don't satisfy what the fundamental basics are required for your body to do its natural job of healing and self-regulation and homeostasis, it's just not going to happen to the effect that it can. And this is in your mental body, this is your emotional body, this is in your physical body. So this is not an exhaustive list. I'm not talking about circadian rhythm. Thank you. I'm not talking about circadian rhythm. I'm not talking about light exposure. I'm not talking about microbial diversity in the gut, which are all some real fundamental basics, right? Like modern life and the light exposure that we have, not the best thing ever to be the healthiest person that we can be, our mitochondrial health and all that kind of stuff. So those are some other things, but I'm going to focus on 3 fundamentals that I feel are not addressed enough. There, now I can focus, because I'm bleeding and I can't focus. So, and I hope that after the end of this, you're going to realize that, oh my God, like I need to respect this body, because what I'm really sad about when I talk to people all the time, because I work at a shop down in the South, is they don't have time for their body to heal. They don't have time for them to be sick. They don't have time. It's like, whoa, let's respect this body. This body only knows healing. But we live in a world where we got poison coming out of every single, wherever. It's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the food, it's in the airwaves, it's in the information, right, that we feed on. It's everywhere, and the body can only do so much. So I want to talk about, first of all, whoa, wait, I forgot. I wanted to go to this page first, right? To trust. We have a relationship here, and one of the most important factors in any relationship is to trust. And if we don't trust, then we're afraid, and we make poor decisions, and we don't know. So own it and trust, and stop outsourcing everything. We live in a world where it's convenience and we outsource everything. Doesn't mean we don't seek information. It doesn't mean that we don't seek expertise, but we take ownership and responsibility and learning it, so that the next time we're going to know what to do, or we can pass on wisdom and knowledge to our children, because it is their birthright to be healthy and to understand and know how to be healthy. I'm a big advocate for parenting and children and them knowing how to take care of themselves. But when we're making everything out of a can, or getting it out of the drive-through window, and suppressing everything with antibiotics and drugs, and suppressing a fever when a fever is our natural way to heal, then our children don't grow up with any wisdom. Our children grow up with depending on everything outside of themselves and not having the skills and wherewithal to help themselves. And so it's a really big picture, but it affects a lot of people that come after us. So it's time to do this. So I want to really lay down the foundations. And if you've got the foundations, you know you've got certain things covered, then you can look at what next. Then you could go to the next thing and learn from there. But first, let's look at some really fundamental basics. So one of the things that we need to talk about, but there's a saying, a psyche, brain, body connection. So I'm going to talk about emotional health. Number one, our body and our emotions, there is no separation between mind and body. The body is a reflection of the mind. And there's many different ways to look at how we can deal with our emotions. So there's many different tools. But has anybody heard of something called German New Medicine? That might be have, yeah. So German New Medicine is a fascinating area, and I feel extremely important for us to fully understand because it takes the fear out of our symptoms and it brings in the curiosity. It brings into curiosity, like, wow, my body's doing this right now. What is it resolving? How is it helping me through a temporary situation? So this was something that was created, a body of knowledge that was created by Dr. Hammer, who was an oncologist. In the late 70s, his 17-year-old son was shot accidentally, so they say, and he died 3 months later in his arms. A few months after that, he developed testicular cancer. He had the wherewithal to say, wow, I've been really healthy. What's going on? Does this have something to do with this trauma that I sustained with the loss of my son? And sure enough, he has access to all these people with all these different types of cancers, and he starts interviewing people. And it turns out that every single one with the same type of cancer had the same kind of conflict occur in their life, an unexpected shock. And therein he creates this body of knowledge referred to as German New Medicine or Dramatic Healing Knowledge, GNM or GHK, which he went on to prove with tens of thousands of cranial CT scans, without a doubt, that there is always a psyche, a brain, and a body connection. The psyche perceives something that it didn't expect. And in that moment, you don't know how you're going to respond to something. So we might all experience the same kind of a conflict shock. This is that unexpected event. But we might all approach it differently and have a different perception of it. Based on that perception, a certain part of our brain is affected. And that part of the brain, when we were developing embryos, controlled a certain part of the germ layer of the body when it was developing. And that is where our symptoms are going to show up. However, the symptom doesn't necessarily show up there. The symptom occurs when we resolve that situation, and then our healing occurs. So when we get a cold, we get a cough, when we're bleeding out of our bum because we just resolved something and we've dissolved a tumor that has to leave somewhere, this is the actual healing part of our journey. But the problem is we get scared because when you're coughing up blood, when you're getting rid of something, that's scary. So then we go to the doctor, then we get a diagnosis, then we get medical intervention, and then we go down that path. So German New Medicine, with the exception of a trauma, some kind of like you were in a car accident, which in itself will lead to other unexpected conflict shocks, right? Poisoning, there's a little bit of poisoning going on in the world today, or severe deficiency. Those are the three areas where it doesn't apply. He has gone in the past, he actually died suspiciously in 2017, but he had gone in front of a panel of doctors and without fail had shown through cranial CT scans, their medical history, what kind of experiences they went through, what state they were in right now in their medical stuff, what they've healed from, and what they're currently experiencing 100% of the time. But would the medical community embrace this? Would they mention it past their doors? Absolutely not. They did not. This man was persecuted. He had his license stripped. He was driven out of his country. He was jailed. But he always maintained this because it's literally the only science-based study out there. It's literally like this the only like science-based medicine out there. Right? It's the only one that's proven because he can prove it. And very few people can read those cranial CT scans. And they have to be done in a certain way. There can't be any contrast dye. Very few people can do that. So why I want to bring this in as one of the basic things is because we know the body-mind. We talk about the body and the mind. The body and mind is a one thing through, as Ken mentioned before, he talked about the fascia. So the fascia, it's going to come a couple times because I'm obsessed with fascia, is the physical representation of the connection of the body-mind. Your emotions are held within that fascia, but your body, your physical symptoms as well. So they cannot be separated, and that physical fascia is an example of that, but yet our physical symptomatology is also affected that. So when I have a son, he's 15 years old. When he has a cough, it's like, okay, what kind of territorial conflict did you, like sometimes mom can get really annoying. So I try not to, I try not to put yourself like, what did you resolve? Oh my God, this is good. Let me just did this and look what's happening and your body's healing. If that means you're done, it's good. So I try not to bring that up too much because sometimes I can get a little annoying, because she's just grown up with this crazy mother all the time. But it's empowering because we get to understand that our symptoms are our healing. Our symptoms are part of the problem. It's a biological adaptation to help you through a temporary situation. And when that is resolved, your body will resolve it. However, that being said, it can be dangerous. It could be a heart attack. It could be a seizure. It could be a stroke. So when we know what to expect, then we can take measures, say ice packs for massive swelling, or drink some DMSO to open up the pathways so that if we're going to have a heart attack, we open things up, right? But most of our things aren't life-threatening. Most of them are nagging. And when people are just trying to suppress with modern medicine, then we get into problems because something that is suppressed is going to pop up somewhere else later on, and we know that. So rather than inviting it in and getting curious, suppress it. So let's stop doing that. So I really encourage people to re-perspective their symptoms. Get curious about your body's doing. What is it helping you? Look up your symptom in German New Medicine and see what's going on. This happens in nature with animals, and they can't think about this stuff, right? They don't analyze, oh my goodness, I've got this tumor, now it's bleeding because I'm dissolving. And they don't do that. They have their temporary situation, they go through it, and then nature just reverses it and they heal. But we go to the doctor, we analyze, we fret, we have a very stressful life, we don't fully resolve, we're in the situation where we're in a resolution, but then we go back into the situation, so we can be in these hanging situations too. So German New Medicine is a fascinating area of knowledge that can really open up our view as to why we get sick and how we heal and how we can support the body in healing. And on my podcast, Sovereign Collective, I'm actually interviewing this Tuesday morning a man named Danny Carroll. It's not going to be live, but I will be posting it. My last one's on fascia. It's a fascinating interview, by the way. But this one with Danny Carroll, he wrote a book called Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis. And he himself has had cancer several times. So not only is an expert in German New Medicine, he has actually had cancer several times and has resolved it every single time. So, and he helps other people also recognize in their life why that would occur and then support the body through the healing process rather than starting to poison, burn, irradiate, and all these things which cause a whole host of other problems. So German New Medicine. So that's number one, the emotional mind. And there's all sorts of other ways to heal, right? So the thing with German New Medicine, it's not the tool for the healing, it's the awareness of why it happened in the first place. And then our healing occurs through the coaching with someone, the tapping, the nutritional support, the grounding, the breathing, the meditation, the ice bath, whatever it might be. It's not the healing itself, it's the explanation as to why, so then you can support the body in the process and resolve the issue. It's a fascinating problem. I actually have, so I'm interviewing Danny Carroll this Tuesday, but I also have interviewed a woman named Tanya Berkwin, who's in Alberta, up north a little bit more. And I've got a great interview to German New Medicine. And then I talk about some of the apparently contagious type of things that we talk about, an explanation from a totally different perspective about maybe it's not contagious, maybe it's something else. Super fascinating stuff. My podcast is on Spotify, iTunes. If you go to YouTube, I'm Sascha Says. I have a page with it that on the end. It's on Podbean. It's on the major, some of the majors. iTunes and Spotify is where most people, every once in a while, look it up and it's like, oh, it's somewhere else. I didn't even know I got that. So yeah, I just put it in one place and it kind of shows up in other places. It works. It's magic. So what's that? Like mushrooms, right? Like mushrooms. They just pop up everywhere. So number two. So there's some interesting things that Ken had mentioned in his talk, because I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that, or I'm going to talk about that, maybe from a different perspective. But these are some fundamental basics. So number two, we really need to nourish the electrical body that we are. We are, before anything else, electrical. Anything that has an electrical current running through it has a magnetic field around it. We're electromagnetic beings first. And what drives the current but the minerals? And with modern agriculture, with the glyphosate that's out there, with everything, the one thing, we've got our carbs still, we've got our proteins, we've got our fats, we've got all the macronutrients, but what is really screwed up is the mineralization of the body. And we think that we are so smart and we're going to figure out what we need, how much we need, when we take it, and all this stuff. But I'm going to tell you, I think that nature knows better than we do, even though we've messed with it so much, right? But the thing with glyphosate, it chelates minerals to varying degrees. So it's a mineral chelator, number one. It kills the microbes in the soil that's going to help to uptake it. It's destroying, we're destroying the organic complexes that are part of the plant uptaking the nutrition, and we're just downright polluting everything, right? But the problem with modern agriculture is one of the biggest ones, in my view, is the incomplete mineralization. And when you are an electrical being requiring certain minerals in certain natural relative abundances, and you're not getting them through the natural ways that we used to do, which would be in the water, the mineral-rich waters that we had, the soil organisms that we would have when we pluck food out of the ground, or the natural whole foods that we would have, or eating seasonally, not eating foods that were grown in plastic and still referred to as organic, which is some things that they are grown that way, right? Like getting things trucked all over the world 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, expecting to have the same food day in, day out. What I really loved about you said, because I'm a huge proponent of seasonal eating, is like, eat those cherry seasons a month. It used to be like a week, 2 weeks, and you had to eat them when you could, and then you're done, right? Like for me, raspberry season is when my bushes are producing in my backyard. But when we eat that way, we get different nutrients at different times, providing different needs of the body, because we are circadian. We have rhythms with the days, with the months, with the seasons. So we get those natural foods. The problem is those foods don't contain what they're supposed to contain anymore. The problem is the foods are very deficient, or the relative abundance has been really screwed up. So I have a few interviews on minerals in my podcast, 4 of them on copper, actually. One of them on iodine, and I'm looking to interview a man that I've interviewed a couple of times. I interviewed him on tissue salts. His name is Dr. Berlando, one of my favorite wisdom purveyors out there. And we did one on tissue salts, and we're going to do one more on fulvic and human complexes. And the whole idea of how do we actually get our minerals, and how are we meant to get them? Because for me, taking separate minerals in different mineral pills, that's kind of being set aside. For me, it's more whole food. Mother Nature knows, Mother Nature produces, whether it be deep in the soil with the humic and fulvic complexes, which are these big organic, well, fulvic a smaller one, the humic a larger one, covered in all the minerals that bring in what we need, and takes up the trash all in one. Or in the form of something called shilajit, which is a tar that oozes out of certain mountain ranges at certain times of the year. When it warms up, breaks through the rock. And these amazing, beautiful mineral complexes will come in and bring what we need, regulate the natural relative abundances of what we actually need, and take out the garbage, take out the excess heavy metals, take out the excess of actually what we do need, but we have too much of it. And also clean up the bloodstream, clean up the gut, restore the tight junctions. There are so many beautiful things that these things do, and you don't have to worry about, well, how many milligrams of this, and how many milligrams of this, and how many milligrams of this. We are mineral beings. And if we want full form and function in our bodies, then we need the minerals. And this is something that Dr. Berlando says. And when I heard him say a few years ago, the number one thing that we should be doing is consuming the 12 primary tissue salts. Like, what? Have you guys heard of the tissue salts? Does anybody know what the tissue salts are? Some people. The tissue salts are homeopathically prepared mineral parents. And there's 12 primary ones, but there's actually more. But basically, if we burn this body, we get rid of all the organic material, and we analyze the ash, we're pretty much made up of those mineral parents. So if we want to have proper form and function of the body, we need to have those fully in our body, which we get in the womb when we are gestating, except for the months of they're associated with also the astrological signs. So those times that you're not in the womb, you don't get those through mama. But the thing is we're not going to get into details of it, but look into the tissue cells, because form and function. So let's talk about an example of form and function with minerals. So this isn't one of the tissue salts, but it's a great example that's very obvious. It's iodine. We have a lot of iodine antagonists in our environment. We've got bromine everywhere and all the fire retardant materials and all the new car dashes that everybody's driving. There's bromine freaking everywhere. Bromine is a halogen and it'll push out iodine. And we have a very low intake of iodine as it is in this part of the world. There's also chlorine. They want to put fluoride back in our water. I'm so excited about this. Not really. But all these things are really affecting our iodine. And iodine is required by every single cell in the body, which I think probably pretty much every mineral is required by every single cell in the body, really. I mean, you hear that about everything. But when we have an iodine deficiency, we get things that talk about form. We get goiter, we get a large goiter. We get cystic breasts. We get tumors, often breast tumors and reproductive tumors. My husband had a pylar cyst. He had this big cyst on his head that he was trying to get rid of for a long time in all sorts of different ways. And it got so big to the point where his sister took us for a drink one day without her son because she was worried about the cancer that he had on his head. And we're like, no, don't worry about it. It's not cancer. It's fine. It's just a cyst. And finally, iodine. Lugol's iodine, internally, externally, gone flat. Amazing. So when we have an iodine deficiency, that is one of the obvious symptoms. And because it tries to enlarge the thyroid so it can work better, right? There's reasons to it. Form and function go together. So that's just one example of that. But the minerals through sources of humic and fulvic complexes, which are basically mineral-rich complexes provided to you deep within the soil or up in the mountains. We've got the tissue salts, which naturally used to be a lot more prevalent in the air than the food and in the water that we used to consume, but these days not so much, right? Even we have the humic and fulvic complexes in the water, in the runoff water, and in the spring water, and in the water table. Stuff isn't in there anymore. So we have that, but also there's things like the algae and pearl powder. Just talking about pearl powder just a little while ago. Pearl powder. There's really naturally mineral-rich foods. Sea salt. Unrefined sea salt. All of these things are great mineral sources. And for me, before anything, when it comes to supplementation, I'm looking at minerals. Minerals for me are number one because you cannot drive the processes. And when you take these minerals in, you will upregulate, without exception, every single process in the body because it's all mediated by minerals. And this is why the fulvic complexes are so important because you don't have to guess. I used to say if they took everything off the shelf right now, I would have to stock up on magnesium malate, a very specific form of magnesium that targets muscles. Because ever since I was pregnant, I really noticed my needs for magnesium. And after about 4 or 5 days of not taking that magnesium, couldn't be bisglycinate, not threonate, nothing else, malate, my legs get like, I might get a little bit, squirmy and restless leggy kind of feeling. So now that I'm taking humic and fulvic complexes every day in form of stuff that I drink, like I've got fulvic acid actually in my water right now, but then I take the Shilajit in the morning. I don't remember the last time I took magnesium malate. And it's been 15 years taking that. 15 years. There's no way. And now it's like, I don't have to think about it. So I'm really moved away from those individual minerals. That being said, sometimes we do need to take individual minerals. Like, for example, a friend of mine who was given fluoride tablets when she was young. Trying to get pregnant for years, kept on losing pregnancy after pregnancy. She finally has a healthy baby boy after taking 1 × 10⁶, so it's 1,000,000 times more than the recommended daily intake of iodine. So iodine, I'm getting back to iodine because it is such a big deficiency, but it has a lot to do with our capacity for intelligence and our capacity to bear children, our capacity to even conceive them in the first place. And it is the #1 cause of mental retardation in the world to this day, and a very easy thing to fix, and we don't. So just another example about that. So she took 200 milligrams of iodine a day. That would knock me on my butt. I'd be out. And I did bring my iodine up and then I brought it down. So I feel like many people do need to perhaps rebuild certain stores. But once you've got that, then you're good. And let's just depend on what nature provides. Shilajit, humic, fulvic, those types of things. And then we're happy, in my opinion. So electrical beings require the minerals. And if you think you're having a hormone problem, you think you have a mood problem, you think you have an energy problem, back up a little bit and make sure you've addressed the fundamental basic of proper mineralization. Because if you haven't, and you take whatever else you're going to think is going to help you, it's not going to help you to the extent that you think it will. And certainly don't go straight to the pharmaceutical prescription before looking at what your deficiencies might be. And it's not just minerals, there are severe B vitamin deficiencies, other vitamin deficiencies that cause a lot of problems as well. And that can look in the form of mental illness, can look in the form of skin issue, can look in the form of so many different things, wounds that don't heal. But look at the basic fundamentals of that. So number one, mental emotional stuff. Number two, nourish the body electric with the minerals that are there to carry the current through the body, right? That is such a key thing. And it's really been life-changing for me and a lot of people that I know in many different ways. Anxiety. Anybody knows a lot of anxiety these days? People are anxious. They have low energy. They have brain fog. The minerals, huge in that. And the brain fog and other things can also be helped by number three. So number three, so this is why I say stop chasing downstream problems. And I actually come up with that. There's a guy named Dr. Perry Nicholson out there who talks a lot about lymph. And he says that people, they're always chasing downstream problems. They're chasing their pain. They're chasing their brain fog. They're chasing their poor memory. They want to go with that, but we got to go back upstream. And one of the things that we really need to address is flow. So again, Ken talked about flow. And nothing heals through a stagnant state. I don't care what you're looking at. Our blood needs to flow, our energy needs to flow, our bile needs to flow, our poop needs to flow, our pee needs to flow, our lymph needs to flow. It's all about flow, and nothing benefits from stagnation that I am aware of, right? Look at the bog and look at the river, and which one do you want to be? So when we've got flow, then things work. And when it comes to the lymphatic system, that is literally our internal sewage system. And when we're not moving our lymphatic system, which we're going to do, by the way, when we're not moving it, then we literally are bathing our tissues in their own sewage. So when they're bathing in their own sewage, there's an intelligence to this body that we are. And if those cells know, in order to take in nutrients, they need to metabolize those nutrients and add to the waste that they're already sitting in, they're going to be less apt to absorb the nutrition in the first place. So not only are you bathing yourself in toxic waste, where things are just collecting and obviously not promoting good health, you're not absorbing the basic nutrients as well on top of that. You've really impeded that. So over time, this could look like very poor brain health. The brain needs to drain at night. This is our lymphatic system. We have, wait, do I have it up here? This is our lymphatic, it's everywhere. It's in our brain, it's in all our major nodes and the areas that we bend and in our gut area, but we have them all over the place. And what was recently discovered, in the case of historical medical history, is that we have the lymphatic system, which is our brain's lymphatic system. And our brain is supposed to get washed at nighttime, and it's supposed to drain at nighttime. But we have poor circadian rhythm habits, we have poor sleep habits, we are putting off good quality sleep because we're looking at the wrong kind of light late at night, and we're telling our body it's noon. I don't need to make melatonin for a long time. You never get the restorative sleep. You never get the deep sleep. You never have the sleep that the body requires to heal every single night, because that is when we heal and repair and restore. And that is the thing that we really don't schedule into our lives very much, or don't pay attention to the quality. Not everybody, but a lot of people, or they just have problems. We're just stressed. We have a busy mind. We've got so many things on the go, right? And as a result of that, we're not draining our brain. And that is very much associated with any kind of Alzheimer's, dementia, foggy thinking, anything like that. And just brain inflammation as well. But we need to flush our major toilet every day, several times a day. And I do this many times a day. And I'm gonna take you through something very, very quickly. But my husband, I like to use him as an example a lot of time, I'm realizing has got a lot of lymph stuff, and we're moving it for him, because when he goes into detox, he goes into Herxheimer reaction, which is a detox reaction like nobody's business. So I send him down to the coffee enema bathroom, and I have him make him do a coffee enema, and he comes up a new man because it cleans the blood real time. However, what we can also do is get that lymphatic system moving and literally flush the toilets of the system so that the vessels can flow. So what are the signs of lymph congestion? Major Herxheimer reactions. You shouldn't be going through crazy detox like we generally do if your lymphatic system is moving that. Some people have arm puffs, not pits. We should all have a pit right here, not a puff. So people have that. They have puffiness in general. A lot of people steps, right? This is a lot of lymph fluid. So the beauty industry these days, what I like seeing is there's a lot of facial massage out there, fascial work, lymphatic drainage, right? Because that's a big part of maintaining beauty, but it's just maintaining health in general, because that's just a reflection of what's going on the inside, right? We got sensitive areas. So when we do this exercise, pay attention to anything that might be sensitive. And over time, you're going to want to spend extra time in those areas, because that means there's lymphatic backup in there. So there's a lot of people, I take them to, they're like, oh, this is sensitive. Or sometimes people, like I have a friend, she was just like swollen right here. Like this is where 70% of your whole lymphatic system wants to drain into, whether it comes from your toe or your brain, wants to go right here. So these areas, if they're puffy, then nothing else can drain, because the car that's at the red light hasn't moved yet. So nothing else can move behind it. So we got to make sure that the termini right here is moving, right? So we have the throat area, we've got cognitive problems, we've got lots of skin eruptions, pain. So many people are chasing their pain, but they're not moving the areas of pain. And there's difference between when you have pain from a car accident, pain from an actual trauma, you know what caused it, or all of a sudden it's like, all of a sudden, something's hurting me. What's going on with that? That wasn't hurting me yesterday. There's a situation there that might have something to do with your lymph. And so someday I've interviewed for my podcast on the lymphatic system, Dr. Kelly, Kelly Kennedy. So the exercise that I do is it's a kind of a combo between Kelly Kennedy and Dr. Perry Nicholson. And Perry Nicholson says, I don't care what you're coming in to see me for. I don't care if you have a hangnail. I'm going to treat your lymph, because your lymph is your basics. And if your fluids aren't moving, and if you have a circulatory system issue, you've got a lymphatic system issue. And what is your lymphatic system anyway? It's a whole series of nodes, whole series of vessels, way bigger than your circulatory system, your blood circulatory system, that's all over the body that nobody talks about. Yet in Ayurveda, it's the #1 thing that they talk about. It's the #1 system that they want to get moving. The oldest medicine on the planet. Maybe we should look to them for a little bit of wisdom, pay attention to what they're talking about here. I asked Kelly about the big C and the lymph system. In Europe, when you're diagnosed with cancer, the first thing to do is get your lymph moving. In Canada or North America, they don't want to move your lymph because they don't want it to metastasize. Like, wait a second, that's the system that's supposed to flow. How could a stagnant lymphatic system ever support the healing of what you're dealing with? How could that ever be? Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so another thing that's really important, why I love doing this, we're gonna do this shortly, is touching. It's a blood test isn't gonna show you, oh, your lymph is congested. It's not gonna show you that. But when you touch your body, like doctors don't touch anymore. We have medical consults over the computer. They don't know what you look like. They don't know what you smell like. They don't feel anything anymore. There's a lot of information that can be got by touch. That's also a really important part of a trusting, good relationship as well. But when we palpate, we can get a lot of information about the sense of how it physically feels, but how it feels to us, that sensation too. And if we just look at our blood and say, oh, nothing's wrong with me, but we don't explore, then do we really know the full picture? We don't know. We don't know at all. So we want to address our lymphatic system a couple times a day, like we brush our teeth minimally. I do it many more times a day. I just did a couple road trips up to PC and back, and every time we stop, I'm out of the car and doing the points, I'm hopping around and doing some fascia work. You get back in, it's like, whew, you're not stiff anymore. Everything feels better. You're not stagnant, right? Like, it's such an important thing to do. So if everybody wants to join me, let's do a little exercise in lymphatic motion. I gotta move out of the way here somewhere. All right, so we're gonna stand up, take a deep breath, in and out, and just get present with where we're at, get us into the parasympathetic state. We're gonna start, this is the termini, these are the endpoints. This is where everything wants to drain, whether it be from the tips of your toes to the top of your brain and everything in between. It wants to go here, and this has to move first. So you just do it lightly, like you're checking. You know, it's not like that nickel weight. Like, we don't live in a nickel weight world, like the lymph therapist. I mean, somebody's a lymph therapist here, but I do it a little bit from like you're checking the produce, but I also go like this. You can rub it. You can activate it all sorts of different ways. Above and below the collarbone, rubbing it this way and rubbing it this way. And literally like 10 seconds per area. It doesn't take a long time. You do this whole thing in less than 2 minutes. Then you go up to here. There are way more, but these are the basic ones, but you can definitely go into more. So we do under here, just, you know, go up the jawline there, the tonsils. We just rub those. And then we go in front of the shoulder blades. So I do it on the left-hand side, just in front of the shoulder blade. Then I do it on the right-hand side. And notice if you're feeling any kind of pain, any kind of congestion, if it feels puffy, if it's sensitive. A lot of women have a lot of sensitivity around the breast area. In order to have healthy breast health, we want to make sure that that is all clear. So if you're feeling, you know, go explore that and see if there's something that's sensitive, get in there. So you can also do your armpits, but I'm going to stick to the main 6. So go here, and then we go to here. The middle one's called the Sascha Kalivoda. This is where everything is coming through from the bottom half of the body. So just give that a nice rub. However, because there's, and for some people, I was just doing this with somebody yesterday, they're like, oh, that's so sensitive. I thought it's because I was diabetic and I have bad pancreas, blah, blah, blah. But it's in the center. This is where that node is. And there's a lot of pain for a lot of people that are very hard. You do that, and then just take both hands above and below the belly button, round and round, up and down, side to side, because our gut is full of lymph nodes, right, and lymphatic tissue. We do that. Then we go to our, I was going to say gonads, not gonads. See, the renal area, right? So up and down the legs. We got, so think of where, if you think of the order, think of how we bend, but you go start here and then up, and then you just go in order down, and all the areas where we, you know, we can bend. So there, and then behind the knees, and I just like to circle it up and kind of gently coax it up, just gently. You can't go to your ankles, but for this, we're just not going to do that. And then finish back up at the end. Make sure that this is still open. And then whether you can hop or not, what we're going to do is we're going to just do some jumping. I'm just going to hop because Dr. Perry Nicholson again refers to our calves as our second heart. And they pump all the fluid back up from the bottom when we want that circulation going. We pump it up, we pump it up, and then we're good. And this is what I do in the morning after I get up. This is what I do before I get on my rebounder. This is what I do when I'm going to go for a walk or after I've been sitting. You can do it, and before I go to bed, I just do it all the time. And some people get sweaty. Some people may start to feel sick. So I did this class in Okotoks a couple weeks ago, and somebody messaged me, like, I've been feeling sick lately. Is that normal? Yes, that can be normal. If you're stagnant and your sewage is starting to move, you're going to feel a little bit worse before you start to feel better. And this is normal. So just slow down, let that pass, then do it again. But over time, you'll be able to do this regularly and not feel sick. You'll just feel so much better. And I had one guy do it. He was suffering with all these problems for the last few years. And in that one moment, he couldn't believe how much better he felt because he could just feel it all stuck and stagnant. So the lymphatic system is that internal sewer system. And it's a really, really important thing to pay attention to, like brushing your teeth every single day. Did anybody notice any like sensitive areas? Yeah, right. Okay. So pay attention to those and just keep on working on those, because that over time will definitely go away. And before I used to feel that like around here. Now I got nothing, but if I feel it, then I certainly work on it. And there's things that you can do to work on your face, like get this going, because it's going to cause the lymph to be plugged up. But other things. And a really important thing that is not this class, but the fascia again and the lymph, very, very much intimately tied together, because the fascia engulfs every single thing, right? Your energy meridians, all your muscle fibers, everything ends in the fascia, and it's a fascinating one, that fascia. So if we got this tight fascia, with the fascia will twist and grab and keeps us upright. With all our bad posture, all the accident, all the stress that we hold ourselves, like that fascia grabs us and holds us, and then it tightens, and then we can't flow. And when we can't flow, then we'll have temporary results, but they won't be permanent results. And we want to also address that. So the fascia means, so that's for another thing, but it's very much connected with the health of our lymphatic system, the capacity for the lymphatic system to flow. So those are my 3 things I want people to consider. Your emotions. What do you need to resolve in your life? What are the minerals that you're lacking? Are you taking rich mineral sources every single day? Not only will you mineralize better, you will hydrate better, you will detox better, you will upregulate every single process in the body without exception, because they all depend on proper mineralization with the right relative abundance. And number 3, get that lymph flowing, flush your internal toilets, get that moving. Some people are more active than others, but it's the point of getting those very specific areas, very, very important. Some people have them removed. We have 600 to 1,000 lymph nodes in our body, so the body's really amazing at making up for what we've taken out or harmed or whatever in any other way. So those are my 3 points. And one thing I want to say is when you are healthy, you want everything, and you are unhealthy, you only want one thing. Somebody said that, I don't know who, but I think it's really great because when we don't honor our health, how do we enjoy everything else that life has to offer? We don't. So also, just to find me, thoughtandcollective.org is the main podcast page. From there, you can find the other links to get to my podcast. On Facebook, I'm Sascha Kalivoda. On Instagram, I'm Sascha K Says. On YouTube, I'm Sascha Says. And I'm pretty sure on YouTube that Germany medicine interview I'm about to do on Tuesday is not going to last very long. I do get very censored on certain platforms. So please like, subscribe, do all the things. I never ask people to do that, but you know what? It's really good. And people reach out to me all the time. It's really great. So if you want to contact me, Sascha@thoughtandcollective.org. And if you have any questions, that's what I've got for you today.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Cool. So we're going to take a break. Sascha will be around. Welcome to connect with her, ask her more questions, and then right at the top there at 4 o'clock, we'll have our final presentation. Andre, the world record holder of ice baths, 4 hours and 5 minutes.
Insane.
And when I was chatting with him the other day, he's like, "Oh yeah, I did this." He's got like other like super impressive feats that he's done. That
Really?